Welcome everyone to Rewind Recap Relive, where legends and rising stars meet. I'm your host Jonah, and if you're ready for laughs, if you're ready for ribs, road stories, advice, tag team wrestling, and more, you clicked on the right video. You are here to see WWE legendary tag team, the Headbangers, coming on with the House of Payne. I loved this interview so much. It's on my list of favorites, I'm telling you right now. Seriously, I know you guys are going to love this one. So much great chemistry. I want to see the match. I want to see the House of Payne and Headbangers down the line. So make sure you stick around. But first, let's get into the winner of the Hitman pin. Let's get into next week's giveaway and next week's episode. So who is it that's taking home the best pin there is, best pin there was, and best pin there ever will be? Let's throw it over to the wheel.
Straight Talk Wrestling.
Congratulations, you are the winner. We will be in touch. That's going home with you. And of course, now, I need another pin. Whoa! Did you see that? The Hulkamaniac pin is here for you guys. Great pin, as always. And with the Hulkamaniac pin, you also get 2 stickers. So it's a great giveaway for next week's episode, which is going to be a very special one. So, next week, we've got coming on the Koloff Dynasty. Now, if you haven't heard, Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare, has bestowed the Koloff name onto 2 great talents on the independent scene, really kicking ass and taking names. These guys, rough and tough. We've got all 3 of them coming on the show. Nikita is the manager, of course, the Koloff Dynasty, the team as a whole. It's a really special interview. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's going to end the month for us and shoot us right into Mania month, and I have to tell you, you're not going to want to miss what we do then. So, to enter to win the Hulkamaniac pin, which the winner will be announced on that Koloff Dynasty episode, what you gotta do is comment right down below, hashtag R3 giveaway. That's right, hashtag R3 giveaway to win this Hulkamaniac pin and 2 stickers. Enter away. Good luck. Alright, we've taken care of everything here on the show. All that's left is for us to go home and go right into the Headbangers and the House of Payne. Click that subscribe button. Some great content on the way you're not going to want to miss. Hit that notification bell. I promise you will not regret it. Ding, 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 so you don't miss a thing here on Rewind, Recap, Relive. Make sure you head over and check out Big Con and Nico Narciso from last week. Make sure you check out Nikita Koloff and the Koloff Dynasty next week. Make sure you see if you won the Hulkamaniac pin. Enjoy this great episode, and I will see you soon. We've got a full house today. Our first guests are coming to us from Bronx, New York. They're closing in on 10 years right now as a team and are the current holders of the PAPW Tag Team Championships. They have a combined 1,000 pounds of pressure per slap. Please welcome Nick Payne and Hakim Ali, the House of Payne.
Thanks for having me, guys. How you doing?
What is per slap?
Every time you slap somebody, there's 1,000 pounds of pressure behind it.
Let me introduce our next guest here, a couple of legends in the wrestling industry. They're nearing over 30 years in the business and are still going strong. They've wrestled in many promotions, including WWE, where they are former WWF Tag Team Champions. Please welcome Mosh and Thrasher, the Headbangers.
Yes, welcome, guys. Welcome. It's pleasure to be able to sit down and talk with you guys.
Absolutely.
It's always nice to talk shop.
Don't say it yet.
Right.
It's still early.
Well, as Nick said there, it's awesome having you here. And I always like to start at the beginning of how you got into pro wrestling. And there's all 4 of you. I'd like to know each one. So House of Payne, we'll start with you. Hakim, how'd you get into pro wrestling?
Well, I was always wanted to be a pro wrestler. So I started my training in Brooklyn, New York under Joel Maximo from the SATs. And then after that, that's where me and Nick started tagging up at. And then we left there and then we started training with Pretty Poor Roma.
Oh, nice. Nick, you want to take it over? How about yourself?
I started, it was probably like 1999, 2000, around there is when I first got into like being in a ring and being around the boys and everything. That was in Brooklyn in the original Doghouse where Homicide and a couple of those guys trained. I started my own thing in the Bronx, which is what we were talking about the other day. It was called Empire Pro. So I was running shows and getting that stuff together. It was kind of like a backyard fed. Then when I met up with Hakim, is where we both, he told me about Joel Maximo's school in Brooklyn. I joined him, started to get the proper training, but we learned backwards. We learned lucha style. So now you got two big gentlemen learning lucha libre style. So we got our feet wet with that, and then transitioned over to Paul Roma out here in Connecticut, and he taught us the psychology and how to actually be a real tag team and work on the fly and pretty much work that old school 80s style that we actually love now.
Nice. I definitely want to get into that style too. And so for the Headbangers now, Chaz, what about you? Did you grow up a fan? How'd you get into pro wrestling?
Yeah, I grew up a fan. I grew up watching. Used to take the speed line over to Philly to the Spectrum to watch. And then there was this flea mart right around the corner from my house. And on Saturday, every now and then there'd be this truck out front, spray painted on the side, very awful. Spray painted it. It would say Pro Wrestling Saturday Night. So there was one Saturday night in June of 1993 that I had nothing going on, which is pretty much every Saturday night in my life. Different story. So I popped in to watch, and there was this guy. He was the heavyweight champ there. He wore this mask. He was called the Spider. He was kind of a douche. I got talking to him, and he convinced me to come down to the school and try out. And it turns out that person was Glenn, and he was
that douche would be me.
So he was the heavyweight champ and the trainer down at the school, and I went down and I tried out. And the rest is, I guess, history, as you would say.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Glenn, you want to take it over?
So, yeah, mine's a little bit funnier, a little bit more, I guess, drawn out. So I started back in June of 1991. I was an athlete in school, just like Chaz was. And Larry Sharp at the Monster Factory used to send out business cards offering a free tryout to every athlete that was in high school at the time. So I graduated in 1988. So back then I was 170 pounds, soaking wet, because I wrestled at 167, 165. And I never wanted to go down. I would call up Larry on the phone, and he would answer the phone all the time going, "It's Monster Guys! How can I help you?" And he would scream over the phone, and it would scare the shit out of me, so I would hang up. And then eventually it was in June of 91 that I just went down to the school. I tried out. I walked in to Paulsboro, and it was right across from the high school, and there was cameras and lights and everything else, and I'm looking at the ring, and there's Charles Wright, there's who is Godfather, there's the pit bulls that are there and everything else, and there's these lights and cameras and everything. I'm going, holy shit, this is big time. So we go through a tryout, and he shows you how to fall. He doesn't teach you anything, but shows you how to fall. So I go in, there's about 8 of us that tried out. And I went in and I talked to Larry. And but right before that, there was several guys that came out, and Larry flat out turned them down and said no. One guy had $3,000 in cash, and he said, I was ready to sign up and everything else. He told me no. So I went in there again. I was probably about 175 at the time. And I walk in there, I said, listen, before you say anything, let me gain some weight and stuff like that, and let me come back and try again and everything else. He's like, kid, it's a lot easier teaching you how to do all these flips and jumps and everything else at 170 than it is at 225. I gave him right then and there, and he goes, within 6 months, I can make you somebody. And of course, you're thinking that's just a bunch of shit. I was never really a huge wrestling fan. I watched it occasionally, but it was nothing ever that I thought I would get into, because back then in the early 90s, it was all like Andre the Giant and Big John Studd and Hogan, and all these guys were just ginormous. I'm 175 pounds, so I didn't really thought maybe it would be fun, way to take out my aggression, so I wouldn't go to jail. Look at Chaz is getting bored. Shut up! I told you it would be long.
Well, you told us 5 times you were 175 pounds.
I was.
We get it.
So within 6 months, I had my first match 3 months in, and then in 6 months I was in New Japan Pro Wrestling with Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen, Danny Spivey, and Giant Baba and stuff like that. And, wrestling with Abdullah the Butcher at night and the original Kamala, and it was crazy. It was a whirlwind. And then after that, that's when me and Chaz, hooked up and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I guess the rest is what it is. It's history. I don't know what kind of history it is, but it's history.
For you two, the Headbangers, was the chemistry instant, or did it take time to form that connection?
It was so funny. He'll tell this story. Go ahead, tell that story.
Which one?
You know which one.
So I think it was pretty instant. I mean, I was training down at the school, and I think after, I don't know, the first week, Glenn with his wife, and, they had just had a baby. I had a girlfriend. So I think within the first week, we were all like out hanging out, like on a Saturday night or a Friday night or something like that. So the chemistry was there, and we clicked right away. And we clicked so well. The first time that I got to meet his mother, I'm sure this is I was downstairs at his house, and she comes walking down the steps, and I stand up to say hi to meet her, like, a polite young man would do. And I said, hi, I'm Chaz. And she bitch slaps me across the face, slapped me right across the face. And I was like, what the hell was that? She goes, well, I heard you're just like Glenn. So that's for all the stuff you've either done in the past or all the stuff you're about to do in the future.
Oh, that's great.
And obviously the stuff that we've done, she didn't slap him hard enough.
So, and then there was another time when we were wrestling as the Spiders with the masks on at a show, and you couldn't tell us apart for the most part. And she walked up, and she had this full-blown 15, 20-minute conversation with me, thinking I was Glenn the entire time.
It's so funny. Wow, if that's not chemistry. Yeah.
Not the sharpest tool in the drawer either, but still, it was confusing.
Yeah, no, this is my mother. That one of my first matches, that there was a spot where I was chasing the manager around the ring, and she gets up and she grabs her and she goes, "I got him for you, honey." Yeah, that's when I had to smarten my mom up and let her know about how wrestling works.
Right.
Because back then you didn't do that. I mean, it was sacred. It was kayfabe 100% all the time, everywhere you went. So, I had to smarten her up just a little bit.
Right, just a little, yeah. Hakim, how about you? I want to know, was the chemistry between you and Nick instant?
From day one, we was actually put together because we was both singles wrestlers, and Joel came up to us and was like, "We're going to put you together." It was another guy too. It was like a 3-man team, and he said he was going to put us together. And from that first match, the chemistry was just there, and we just became a tag team from then on in.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't want to do tag team wrestling. It was something that at the time it just wasn't a thing for me, because at the time tag team wrestling wasn't on the level that it should have been. Everything was a singles guy. Everybody was the champion. So that's where my mindset was. And then that, like he said, that first match we got in there and things just kind of gelled together. We worked good, and we had a different contrasting styles where he's kind of more the power and I did kind of more the technical side of things. And being big guys, not a lot of people were used to seeing that. So when we debuted as a team and people saw that and we saw the reaction we got, and plus how well we worked together, it changed our whole perspective on tag team wrestling. And now it's something I can't imagine doing a singles match now.
It's funny that you said that, because Larry Sharp actually was against me tagging with Chaz, because I went 3 years with just doing singles and stuff like that. He goes, "Listen," he goes, "you're about to make the biggest mistake of your life." He goes, "Do you know how hard it is to book a tag team?" He's like, "There's 1 or 2 tag team matches on a card." He goes, "Think about it." He goes, "There's lots of single matches on a card, but there's only 1 or 2 tags on the card." He goes, "It's a lot harder to book 2 people than it is 1. And it was like, it made so much sense. But there was just something between me and Chaz that was different. It was, I hated wrestling by myself. There was no way I was going to go to Memphis or any place by myself. So what a better place to go with somebody that you felt that you've known your whole entire life and to spend that time with. So yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
And that's the same thing with me and Hakim too. It was like, it was weird because coming up, we knew each other. We lived in the same area, but we were never like friends. We didn't hang out with each other. When we actually started to hang out, we actually started to realize like we're more alike, and there's an age gap between us a little bit. So it's like we weren't sure that we were going to hit it off, and to hit it off so well, like you said, to go somewhere else now, I couldn't think of going to a lot of these places alone. Like to have somebody that I trust and I know is a blessing, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And so, Hakim, how'd you guys start the House of Payne? What was the? Were there any other iterations that came first, or was that instantly what you guys were?
Well, Nick Payne is the original House of Payne. It was like I said before, it was a third member, and he stopped wrestling, and we just continued with the tag team.
Right, Nick. So you're the original House of Payne then?
Yeah, I was what it was as a singles guy. I was Nick Payne, and I was billed from the House of Payne.
So are you guys
gotcha.
double wide? So are you guys like a double wide trailer now?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, we're a two-family house now. But yeah, no. So I was billed as Nick Payne from the House of Payne, and then when he put us together, I initially thought I was going to be the singles guy, and Hakim and the other guy were going to be on teams. And then we had that match, and I was like, "There's no other way. Like, he's the other singles guy now, and me and Hakim are team no matter what." And that's how we went. We started to develop it, and
right,
and it made sense. We looked like houses, and we brought a lot of pain, so it was good. It was good.
Your opponents or to the fans?
Yeah.
Sorry.
He'll do it for the whole hour.
This is what I bring to the show.
I'm excited. So Chaz asked earlier, the 1,000 pounds of pressure per slap. I want to know where that came in. Like, who was the poor person that got that first 1,000 pounds of slap? You guys were like, yeah, this is what we're going with.
If
there was a person, yeah.
I actually pulled that from it was actually from a song from the rapper Big Pun. It was a song. It was actually on the WCW soundtrack or something like that from one of the movies or something like that. And I heard it, and he was like coming in at 1,000 pounds of pressure per slap, and I was like, that's pretty damn cool. So when they came to us, I'm like, hey, how much do you guys weigh? We hated doing the whole match. Oh, well, I'm this much and you're this much, and let's add it up. So we just like, you know what, 1,000 pounds of pressure per slap. It made sense. We were big guys. So people believed it. So
exactly, yeah.
But you got a bunch of toys out there that actually thought we was 1,000 pounds.
Chaz, so for the Headbangers, I know before the Headbangers, way before that, there were a lot of other ideas and iterations. Can you talk about that a little bit? Some of those early memories.
Actually, there was not. That's a false thing that's thrown out there. So what happened is this: I started in June of '93. My first match was 3 weeks in on WWF TV against Adam Bomb. Second night was Papa Shango. I actually had 6 matches on TV before I had what you would call my first real match. Right. So September, October, November were my first 3 singles real matches. Glenn and I started tagging in December of '93 as the Spiders. Glenn was already a Spider, so I came in as Spider 2. We wrestled as the Spiders. April of '94, we packed up and went to Memphis, moved to Memphis. So between April of '94 and what was it, 95-ish?
95.
I guess. End of 95-ish, something like that. So we went from Memphis to Arkansas, Jonesboro, Arkansas. We were there with Bert Prentice. We went from USWA to there. And then we got a call from Cornette that he wanted us to come to Smoky Mountain. But the thing was, he didn't like the masks. He didn't like the hoods. He said, I'd love to have you guys in, but I hate the hoods. But he goes, I was at a Glenn Danzig concert. He goes,
go figure that.
These guys were they were weird. They were slam dancing. They were beating the shit out of each other. They were spitting on each other. They were wearing dresses. They had makeup on. He goes, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. He kept thinking, there's a gimmick here somewhere. There's a gimmick. He goes, your guys' attitude, the way you talk, you're from the Northeast. He said, I think you guys could do something. So it's actually Cornette who came up with the gimmick, the idea, and the name. So we had that starting in Smoky Mountain. And then ended up shutting down. And then Cornette went to WWF. He was in the office with WWF, and he went into Vince and said, hey, I know these guys. They got this great gimmick. Would love to bring him into TV and have a tryout. He caught Vince in a really good mood. And Vince goes, tell me about them. He goes, well, you know who they are. They've been up here before. Chaz and Glenn, they've done jobs up here for a lot. He goes, they've been up here fighters. And Vince was like, yeah, I know him. He goes, don't worry about a tryout. Just sign him to a part-time contract. So at that time, they were doing these part-time deals where they were bringing guys in, building them up to a certain level. And their whole job was to get the top talent over, but to make the matches look a little more competitive. So we actually had the headbanger gimmick for a couple of years before we actually signed, maybe a year, I guess, before we actually signed with WWF. Once we got to WWF, that's when they started with the Sisters of Love, and they tried.
Right, yeah.
And they tried doing all those different things. And all that was at first was supposed to be, the headbangers are so crazy. These guys are nuts. They don't care. They'll come out in different gimmicks, different ideas, and all this other stuff. So that's where all that came from. So yeah, so we actually had that. There wasn't a lot. Again, it was me. Glenn wrestled as a Spider. I wrestled as myself. And then it was the Spiders, headbangers, and then bam, WWF.
That's quite the journey. And so how about all the skirts and the make-em and stuff? Like, how did you guys evolve it? Did it start out like that, like the first night that Cornette came up with it?
What happened was we showed up at the first TV. We didn't know what to wear. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what our names were. We knew nothing. So we showed up, we were wearing shorts. I had work boots on. Glenn was wearing sneakers. Cornette gave us t-shirts. He gave me a Slayer t-shirt. He gave Glenn a Metallica t-shirt. And that's what we did. We went out there and that's how we wrestled. But the problem was PG-13 was big in the area, Wolfie and Jamie. And they did the same thing. It was a t-shirt and shorts and sneakers. So I said, we got to come up with something. So we went to the thrift store. We were walking around and I walked down the women's aisle. And I grabbed the skirt and I put it on and I came around the corner and he was like, no. No. I go, we got to try it. So I convinced him to buy a skirt. We wore the skirts that night, and the heat we got, here we're in the Bible Belt of Tennessee from the crowd. Here comes two guys wearing skirts, heavy metal t-shirts, face paint on. The heat we got was unbelievable. So we went in the back after the match, and Cornette looked at us, and he goes, where'd you get the skirts? At the thrift store. He handed us each $20 and said, go buy more skirts. You now wear.
And I'll tell you what, there's nothing more comfortable than wrestling in a skirt. So
easy gear to put on for sure.
That's it, man. Hey, our whole gimmick cost us about $27.
Yeah.
You guys are spending hundreds of dollars on your gear and stuff like that. We're going to Army and Navy stores and buying boots for $10, and then the thrift shop getting a skirt and a t-shirt for another $2.
That's what I'm saying. I was going to say, I think our most expensive thing was our boots, which were like $10 at the used Army Navy store.
So Hakim, I want to know now. So Nick touched upon it a little bit earlier, your style, how you trained backwards, you learned the lucha style. The name could speak for itself, the House of Payne, but I want to hear from you. What could people who have never seen one of your matches expect in the ring from you guys?
We a mixture of the Tully Arn, the British Bulldogs, and the Rockers. So you put those three tag teams together, that's a mixture of the House of Payne.
You mean all of their weight put together is you guys?
That too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, and it's funny because sometimes people see us come out and their initial reaction is, all right, we're going to see a whole bunch of power moves and a whole bunch of throwing around. Then my partner starts throwing drop kicks or spinning heel kick. I climb the top rope and do an elbow drop, and I'm rolling all over the place, doing lucha spots. And they're like, their head spins. They're not sure what's like. This is not what they thought they were going to see. They thought they were going to watch two big men just sit there and pound on their opponents. We adapt to the style of our opponents. We don't go out there to get our stuff in. We go out there and work to the match and make sure the match makes sense. That's one thing that we wound up learning later with Roma is make it make sense. Don't go out there and do things that are unnecessary and there's no story behind it. Storytelling is the major part of what we do. It's one of the most important parts.
And I'll tell you what, Paul Roma is probably one of the most underrated guys, from that era and stuff like that. He was phenomenal in the ring. Super nice guy outside the ring and stuff like that. I've known Paul, from doing the jobs up there and everything else. So yeah, he very good person to learn from with the philosophy and stuff like that. So
yeah, he's definitely drilled that into us. Storytelling is what always keeps the people coming back. It's okay to do all the high spots, but then what are you doing them for? If there's no
Right.
reason to do it, it doesn't mean anything. So make everything you do.
I'm sure that's it. It's funny because that's what gets me under me and Chaz's skin so much is people will go out there and do all those, the kicks and the backflips and the moonsaults and everything else, and everybody kicks out of everything.
Yeah.
And then when you go and do a finish, and it just why? They don't remember that. They remember that's what's missing in today's wrestling is the cheering for that character, that that Bob Backlund character where you're behind him and it's almost like the Rocky scenario and stuff like that. They cheered for people because they wanted to see them come out on top, not because it's going move for move for move for move and everybody's trying to be Steve Austin or Undertaker or all these other guys. It's just they need that characters back in wrestling.
For sure.
I feel like that's one of the biggest problems in indies right now. A lot of guys are trying to be other people instead of being themselves.
Well, part of the problem with it now is everyone on the indies that are coming up, it dictates what they see on TV.
Yes.
So on TV now, you don't have to tell a story in a match. We were brought up in USWA, Smoky Mountain. So we're brought up around Lawler, Doug Gilbert, Eddie Gilbert, the Heavenly Body, Express. So we're brought up around all these guys who's, you learn how to tell a story during the match. TV nowadays, you don't have to tell a story. You go out there and just do flip, flop, flap all around because the commentators are telling the story of and the story the commentators are telling isn't even about the match that's in the ring. It's about, the main event at Wrestlemania or this match or this feud that's going on. So that's what people do now. They just get out there and they think they just got to fly all around and do nothing. We did a match with the Ascension, who's now calling themselves the Awakening. A few weeks ago, we're working a program with them here in Florida. And we went out there. When I tell you we did nothing. I think total we took 4 bumps. And we ended a match with just a full-blown brawl with an old school pull apart and everything. And it's like we got in the back and everybody was like, that was amazing. They're like, you guys didn't do anything. We're like, you don't have to do anything. And you don't have to.
It was the only match of that night that they started chanting, this is incredible or this is awesome or anything else like that.
Oh, that's so cool.
We did next to nothing. It was the story that the match told.
Yeah, that was when we first got with Roma. I had went to him real prideful with a match that we did, and we did this. Hakim gorilla pressed the guy into me. I catch him. I pile drive him. I pin him. I go for a pin. He kicks out. Oh, Roma tells me, he goes, turn it off. I don't want to see it because you've lost me already. So then he goes, I'm going to show you something. He goes, in your next match, I just want you to try it. He goes, and I bet you, using this psychology, you guys will take 2 bumps apiece and you'll have the crowd. Sure enough, we listened to him, did exactly what he said, and we took 1 bump each and had the crowd on their feet. Ever since that day, I've looked at wrestling completely different.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially when you get to our age.
Look, at our age, when we say less is more, we mean less is more.
For the Headbangers, now you guys had a really unique style in the ring, and you're talking a lot about the psychology now, but when it came to some of those tag moves you did, or just even the maneuvers you did individually, how did you develop that over time? Did it take its time?
It was so funny because when we first started at Smoky Mountain, Cornette said, hey, go watch these tapes of, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express and stuff like that, and come up with your own. So from day one, when I was training, Larry always taught me, he goes, when you go to bed at night, he goes, make sure you have a pen and a pad of paper next to your bed. He goes, because you're going to lay in bed and you're going to dream about stuff and everything else. He goes, you're going to wake up, write it down. That's where we came up with the stage dive. For some reason, I dreamt about a leg drop from the top rope, and then I dreamt about a power bomb. So the first time that we've tried to do it, we tried to do the power bomb and the leg drop from the second rope. The guy was on the second rope, and it just didn't gel right. And Chaz was like, "Hey, how about you just go up to the top? not his ass that's falling down from all the way up there. It was mine." So yeah,
that's where Glenn said, work smarter.
It was funny because the first person to ever take the stage dive, the finisher, the best finisher in the business, you know, and I'm going to just throw that out there. I get heated about that when I hear about other people's finishes. And for the timing of that, we sat on D'Lo's face so many times, and he enjoyed it so many times. But I can't tell you, like, the first couple of times that, like, we, like, really landed on his face, and, like, his nose was bleeding and everything else. So it took a lot of trial and error to perfect that stage dive and the leg drop. So it all came down at once and everything else. So, you know, in my opinion, I think with the timing and how that move is, there's no other finish that I've seen in a tag team wrestling to come close to that. 3D's not timed that way. You know, the Doomsday Device isn't timed that way. You know, it changed my mind. I dare you.
I mean, no, definitely as a young man watching you guys and coming up, seeing that leg drop power bomb, and it was something we've never seen before. It was so different. So I definitely understand what you're saying. And the timing for that, I couldn't even think at the time how hard that and difficult that must have been for you guys. But it's definitely
even harder now. It's even harder now.
Yeah, so what we did was, with a lot of our stuff, was we had a couple of things we came up with. But when Cornette gave us the Midnight Express tapes, and he said, go back and study these and take bits and pieces of what you see and put it into you guys, that's where we got a lot of our stuff from. And then a lot of it was trial and error in the ring. The unfortunate part was the trial and error was with, like, Tracy Smothers and Dirty White Boy, and sometimes they weren't comfortable seeing something coming and they would just move and we would fly in the middle of nowhere. But
Ricky and Robert were on the receiving end of quite a few stuff that we're like, hey, we're going to try this tonight.
Yeah, so, and Ricky was great. Ricky was like, okay, great. The first time I think we did a drop down clothesline, I busted his nose.
But because before it used to be a drop down drop kick.
Yeah, but see, that wasn't working smart because I was really bad on my back taking that back bump off.
All four of you guys have been really big on the independent tag team scene, whether it's been back in the day or now. So I'd love to hear how you just feel the state of tag team wrestling on the independent scene is. I'll start with Hakim. What do you think about it for you guys? Has it been good for you guys over the years?
It's been very good within especially the last 3 years. Tag team wrestling has been making a name for itself again, and I'm very proud of it, man. Very proud of it. AEW is doing a good job with it. They trying to bring the tag team back.
I mean, I definitely like it now more because now we're starting to see the focus come back on it. And hopefully with new teams that come in, they can adopt that style of storytelling, because tag team wrestling in itself is such a different animal, because it's four guys. You're telling so many different stories. There's so many different moving parts. If guys just slow down and took their time to do things the right way and do it correctly, you'd have those people going crazy. I mean, you see these shows, and if you've seen the opening match, they did every move that you're going to see tonight. Mm-hmm. But as a tag team, you guys can do different things and put different scenarios out there that they wouldn't even think of.
So my thoughts on it is I couldn't tell you the last time I watched wrestling on TV. It's kind of, you know, I've seen bits and pieces of AEW and what they're trying to do with their tag team stuff and everything else, which is really good. Me personally, I don't like hey, let's throw, you know, Daniel Bryan and Kane together because they're not doing anything right now. Let's call them a tag team.
Yeah,
there's just something about just throwing two people together and calling them a tag team that just, it gets under my skin, because a real tag team, Ricky and Robert, you know, LOD, you know, all these great tag teams have a certain part of, it's different. The chemistry, the feeling, that the fluidness between, you know, the two guys and how they work together and stuff like that is just, it's different. And you don't see that when you just throw two guys together.
And the other part of that is when you throw two guys together, like for us, when we were in WWF, there was all tag teams, and, you know, the tag teams had the belts. We had, you know, the Hart Foundation. You had Davey Boy and Owen. We had the Godwins. We had, you know, the Blackjacks. But when all of a sudden they would take two guys and just put them together, knowing all that was doing was feeding their fuel for a feud. It was just, you know, putting fuel on the fire for their feud. You sat back as a tag team and you're like, they're just taking the tag belts mean nothing when they do that. So it kind of takes it away. Yeah, so the throwing the guys together is just horseshit. But you know, is what it is. But I think the indie scene, I think the guys there's a lot we're seeing. They're trying to form tag teams, but again, Nick, it's like you said, when people see all these other singles wrestlers being used and they just throw it together, it's like, why am I going to try as a tag team when you got to be a singles wrestler to make it anyway? So
yeah, I mean that's something that me and Hakim, we really pride ourselves on. We don't take single bookings. We've been offered single bookings and we just don't. If you want us, you have to take us both, because we're a real tag team. One of our catchphrases is we are tag team wrestling. It's just something we take a lot of pride in. We don't do the singles matches, or there's guys in the indies now that they're in one tag team trying to establish themselves, and then they go and jump in another tag team with somebody else. It's not what the art form is for. Just my opinion.
Amen. I agree 100%.
I hate that. They just like my partner says, they tag with other people. They take singles bookings, they be in another company wearing a singles belt, then have a tag partner this way. They fight each other. It's ridiculous in indies. It's ridiculous.
So I have another question, another aspect of tag team wrestling for all four of you is the travel. I mean, you're mentioning how close you are, the relationship. Now you guys travel everywhere together. That relationship is real. So Headbangers, I'll go to you first for this. Any crazy travel stories or how that relationship's developed? Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Let's just say we're glad they didn't have social media and stuff like that back when we were traveling.
Back in our day.
Thank God. It's funny because we just did an autograph convention this past weekend up in New York, and we were with Shamrock and Mark Henry and Big Show was there, and we were sitting there and we were telling like stories that we used to do. We always see we're it's not a gimmick to us. This is how we really are. We're crazy. We want to have fun and stuff like that. So what did we do? We used to play pranks on the most dangerous man in the world, Ken Shamrock. So other people would go, you guys are just total idiots. But we used to do it all the time. We would show up at the city a day early. So we would go golfing. Billy used to go, Gunn and Kenny used to go. So they were always in front of us because they always had to be first to do everything. So we would get mad at them and we would just undo their bags on the golf cart so they'd take off and the golf bags would fall off. We would be in the hotel and we would take the hotel trash can, fill it up halfway with water, lean it on the hotel door, knock on it. The hotel door swings in, the trash can falls over, all the water goes into the room. They're 9 times out of 10 wearing socks because nobody wants to walk around a hotel with bare feet. And then their socks get all wet and everything else. We had to pull that prank on Kenny 2 or 3 times, and then after the 3rd time, he would start coming after us in the hallway. And Shamrock's pretty fast.
So it only took one time to catch us, and
we were done.
No, but the thing on the road, being on the road together for so long, I mean, like I said, Glenn and I left April of '94, so I mean, minus a few years in between for the most part. I mean, we were glued to the hip. Hotel rooms every night together, in a car together every night. So, you get along really well, but then there's one of us will be in a bad mood and somebody does something else. It's like, you're chewing too loud. Shut the fuck up. But I mean, it's just, it's little silly shit like that happens. So, I mean, it's good because like Glenn said, he would have never went to Memphis by himself. I would have never left by myself either, because I mean, especially then for me, I was so green. Like I said, I wasn't even in a year yet. I didn't know anything. So to try and do something like that by myself wouldn't have happened.
It's so funny because the first night that we were in Memphis and we were at the Memphis Coliseum, he comes back in that night and he looks at me, we get in the car. He's like, dude, let's just go home. He goes, I'm not ready for this.
Hold on, go back. So the style in the Northeast, so I'll tell the whole story. The style in the Northeast, way different than the style in Memphis. So the style in the Northeast, which is where I had a few matches, was the heel called the whole match. The heel told the babyface, okay, here comes a hope spot. Fight back. Do this, do that. The heel told you what to do. You got to Memphis. Oh, they didn't tell you shit. the heel just beat the shit out of you. So I went in taking the heat because Glenn was, the veteran. He's going to come in and he knows a better comeback and blah, blah, whatever. And I didn't mind it. I was still learning. It was no big deal. But we were in there with Doug Gilbert and Reggie B. Fine, and they just beat the shit out of me. I wasn't fighting back. I wasn't calling my own hope spots. I didn't know anything. So they gave us Bert Prentice as a manager. After the match, we get in the back, and Bert just ripped me apart. He's like, you got to fight. You got to do this. You got to do that. Blah, blah. And I was like, nobody told me to. He's like, right. Somebody nobody told you. I go, I'm used to somebody telling me what to do, when to do it. And they never did. So literally on the way back, we left there because the next night we had to go to Louisville, which was a 6-hour drive. So I think we drove to Nashville. And that 3-hour drive, we got to Nashville. I'm like, just keep going home. I'm like, I'm not ready for this. There's no possible way I can do this. Let's just go back, because Larry told Glenn that going to Memphis with me was a big mistake because I wasn't ready. And I was like, yeah, wow. He was right. Let's leave. And Glenn was like, nope, we're not leaving. You're going to be fine. And again, I learned how to get around it and figured it out.
That's a great story. And House of Payne, how about you? Traveling on the road together.
Nick, you should tell that story, which is kind of ironic because that was the first time we ever tagged up as a team. Why don't you tell them that story about the Guerreros, Hoovy 2 Guerrero, and
all right, so we're gonna show for Joel, and this is the night Hakim almost killed Hoovy 2 Guerrero, and me and our other partner Dre, we got to ride with the Guerreros. So he's like, just bring them back to the hotel. So it's me, my friend Dre, Chavo Sr., Chavo Jr. We're in the car, we're driving. They go, well, we're in New York, we want some pizza. We're hungry. So we go, okay. So we did some extracurricular activities and got ready for pizza. So
hey, oh, wait a minute. Remember, I'm following y'all.
He's following us.
With Hoovy 2 and
Blue Demon.
Blue Demon.
And Blue Demon. They have no idea that these guys want pizza now. So we're not from Brooklyn. We're in Brooklyn. We're from the Bronx. So we're traveling aimlessly around Brooklyn at midnight looking for an open pizza shop. And apparently Hoovy is getting on his nerves in the other car. And we're having the time of our lives in our car. We're laughing and joking and searching for pizza. So by the time we get to the hotel, we get the pizza, we eat, we're happy. We get to that hotel room, and Hoovy 2 couldn't have been so much nicer to my partner. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you for getting this. And he wanted to kill him. Like, he's like, I'm going to kill this dude. Get him away from me. But at the end of it, all cooler heads prevailed, and my partner didn't kill him. But Blue Demon was nice.
Blue Demon was nice. I was going to choke out Hoovy though.
But no, I mean, traveling to like Chaz was saying, to have somebody there with you is, when you have those, you're not feeling good, you're feeling down, or maybe something about the match is on your mind. That your partner's there to be like, don't worry about it. Just keep going. We're gonna keep doing this. We'll, the next one will make up for it.
Right.
He always gives me crap because I don't drive, so he's the only driver on the team.
Oh my God. You don't want Glenn to drive.
See, but that's been my plan for the past 25 years is to drive like shit. He'll never want me to drive.
He'll never ask you.
So Chaz, speaking of driving, tell that one story about how we drove the guys around.
Which
tells
guy?
it better. You know which guys, your little buddies.
So we got a couple of good road stories. So we drove so JR called us one time. This is when they were bringing in the minis, and they had mini Mankind, mini Vader, mini whatever.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Mankind,
so JR called us and said, hey, do you mind driving the minis around? We'll get you guys a minivan. So we're like, sure. We're like, whatever. So we pick them all up. There's 6 of them. We pick them all up at the airport. We drop them off at their hotel. We were staying at a different hotel. So we had, I think it was 4 house shows before TV. So we pick them up. We go to the house show. We drop them off at the hotel. So the next night we pick them up. We do the show on the way back. We decide to partake in a little cigaweed.
There you go.
So the minis in the back are like, going like this. So we passed the cig weed back and shared our cig weed with them. Now, meanwhile, so now you got 6 high little people in the back of the van. They start beating the shit out of one another. They're having a full-blown in the back,
Battle Royal,
which was tremendous. So now the next night, same thing. We're partaking a little cig weed as we get close to back to the hotel. And Glenn's driving this time. Glenn decides to go down the median in between. And now we got 6 high flying all around, beating the shit out of me.
That sounds like an amazing time.
So now,
it's better.
so now I think it's night 4. We're driving and I'm like, I'm hungry. We got to eat. They spoke no English, no Espanol. So we didn't understand a word anyone said other than the time to pick them up. They knew what time we'd pick them up.
Right.
We look in the back and they're all going, we're like, oh, are you guys hungry? And they're like, yeah. It dawned on us. We have 6 minis in the back of the minivan. We're getting them high every night. They have no money. They have no food. They hadn't eaten in 4 days.
and then JR told us, never again will I let anybody drive with you guys.
So then we take them back. We take them back to the hotel. Now, this time we walk in and we're like, have those guys ordered food or anything? They're like, no, but they stand in front of the vending machine, banging on it and trying to shake it. We couldn't figure out what they were doing. So, hey, one more good road story.
Yeah, of course.
So we have Taka Michinoku is driving with us. This is when he first came in, not an ounce of English. This is when Rush Hour was the big movie.
Okay.
So we'd take him around and we were watching the movie. We would quote the movie. And so we started teaching Taka some words and English and different phrases and things like that. So here comes Vince. We're at TV. We're in catering. We're all sitting around a table. Here comes Vince McMahon. Vince comes walking in and Taka stands up to greet him. And he goes, Taka, how are the Headbangers treating you? He goes, oh, yes, Vince. You mind us. And he bowed. That's when Vince turned around. He goes, yep, no one's allowed to drive with the Headbangers ever again. True story.
Wow.
Yep.
Because if you remember Jackie Chang in that movie, that's
yeah.
saying
Of course.
to Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker, yeah. Oh my God.
Vince just looked at us. He goes, never again. He goes, nobody's ever allowed to drive with you two. So now we have JR and Vince telling us that nobody's allowed to drive with us.
I can't even imagine. You guys, like, if I feel like you guys personified like what the fans thought the Attitude Era was. Like, you guys were doing it
oh my God.
on the road. And
we lived very close to Connecticut. So we used to go up to Titan Tower all the time. We had a free weekend or something like that. Or day off during the week, we would go up there. So the one time we go up there and we got very friendly with Beth, who was Vince's secretary at the time. So the one time we show up there, he has this big giant bushel of flowers and everything else. And it's to Vince from the USA Network. So of course, being who we are, we scribble out USA Network and put the Headbangers. And then we proceed to go in his office, which he wasn't in there, and rearrange all his office. So and then we're like, oh man, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. But Vince had a sense of humor. He was a big time ribber. So, which I don't think a lot of people knew because they only see his character that he plays on TV, but he was a big ribber. When Mark Henry broke his leg, he would be on the other side of the arena and he would send somebody to say, hey, go tell Mark Henry to come. But he would make sure somebody would hide his crutches before that. So then you see Mark Henry, 350 pounds jumping all the way down the ring and everything else. And then you hear Vince go, never mind. Just to play a prank on him. So yeah, Vince, he was, especially back then, man, it was a good time. It was totally different than today. How things were run and stuff like that. It was definitely so, I always say that it was family oriented. Everybody knew their place. we knew we weren't main eventers. We knew we were, first match mid-carders. That was our job. That was our position in the company at that time. So, right. We accepted that. We were all right with it. So, it's a shame that it's gone. But I'm so glad that we had a chance to take a full advantage of that that era.
It sounds like you did, yeah. Nick, for you, I want to go now because I know you guys are holding the championships, the PAPW championships, and for over 500 days now, right?
Yes,
that reign's been going on.
Yeah.
So big accomplishment. I want to hear from you guys.
500 days and 3 title defenses. Good job, guys.
Pandemic champions.
Hey, it all counts. It all counts.
All that matters is the record book, right? So, Nick, let's hear it. How did it feel day one?
Since 1998, it's okay.
Well, no, I mean the 500 days is definitely a pandemic thing, but
Right.
winning the belts is for us. It means a lot. I know a lot of people say the belts are just props or whatever, but it means a lot because it means the company's entrusting us with being the head of the tag division, and we take it seriously. So like, there's been a lot of times where they put us as the main event and not the heavyweight champion. So we pretty much carried the company, and the company didn't really have a tag division when we got there. It was us who built that tag division and made the tag division mean something to now a point where people sometimes don't know who some of the singles champions are, but they know who the tag champs are. Mm-hmm. So to hold it for this long and hopefully be able to get back in there and do what we do, it means a lot to us. I mean, Hakim, what do you think?
Well, I brag about it all the time. I brag about how we won 8 titles in 5 different states. So I enjoy it.
And don't ever blame your title reign on the pandemic. It is what it is.
Well, listen, we had more reigns before the pandemic.
I mean, we've had some defenses in there. Is not as many, but we have defended them, so they do count. Right. It definitely does count.
For sure. And Headbangers, you guys, before you won the belts, you actually got a big Mania win to qualify to actually fight for the belts, right?
Yes, our first WrestleMania 13.
That's awesome. Can you talk about the Mania win? How that felt for you guys?
No, that was the greatest WrestleMania ever, WrestleMania 13. The best part about that is we found out it was about a month before then. I guess backstory. So a month before then, we were on the road wrestling, doing house shows. I think we did like a week's worth of house shows. We're winning every night. We're all excited. We're like, this is great. Here, we're still part-time guys, and we're going over on the road. Like, we're getting our groove. We show up at TV, which was at the Manhattan Center in New York, which Glenn was there doing like the very first Raw when they did it. I had never been there, but watching Raw, it's an iconic thing. So we were all excited to be there, and then they pull the run sheet out, and we see Headbangers versus LOD, and we went, there goes that run. It's over and done with.
Yeah.
But it was really cool because LOD came up to us and said, I talked to Vince. Vince speaks really highly of you guys. He knows you're the future. He goes, but they went on this whole rant, putting us over, which was amazing. And then he goes, so the match tonight, we thought we should watch. It was their first night back that they were coming in specifically for WrestleMania, leading into Mania. No, we had a real competitive match back and forth. It ended up being either a double count out or a double disqualification.
Yeah, double count out.
Yeah, so that night we found out, we had that great match. That night we found out we were getting action figures. And then that's the night actually we found out we were even in WrestleMania. So Howard Finkel used to do the voiceovers and the radio spots, and he'd call you in to give you the script to read, and you would read it. So he hands us a script, and it talks about us being in a 4-way tag match at WrestleMania. And we were like, we were like, what the is this? We're like, is this a joke? He's like, no, nobody told you. We're like, no, like that's how we found out we were going to be in WrestleMania.
Wow.
So we get to Chicago, and again, we're still part-time. What was that, March? We started in November, the middle of November. So we weren't there that long. We walk into the hotel lobby, and you can't move. It's just packed. I mean, it's shoulder to shoulder, bumper, just people all over the place. So security starts clearing people right away. Somebody saw us, and next thing you know, there was a Headbanger chant going on in the lobby of the hotel, and we were like,
Oh my God.
We're like, what is going on right now? And then we did a bunch of different events and things like that that led up to it. So now we're at WrestleMania. It's, you know, we're sitting in there and it's Chicago and get all of us together. So it was us, it was Doug and Phil, the new Blackjacks and the Godwins. So they're talking to the Blackjacks and Doug and Phil, and they're like, okay, so you guys are going to spill to the floor and you guys are going to get counted out. So it's going to be the Headbangers and the Godwins left. And I remember Glenn and I looking at each other going, we're not getting eliminated. I was like, oh, like this is amazing. Like we're not getting eliminated. And then they were like, okay, so we want you guys to have like a competitive thing back and forth and come up with something really cool, Headbangers, that you guys would do to go over on the Godwin. And we literally sat like this and went, we're going over on them. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, we're going over on them, and then we get the title shot like little kids. Like,
yeah.
Shot tomorrow night, and they're like, yeah. And then Phineas, because Phineas and Henry, we worked them all the time, so they knew how we were. So they jumped right in to like kill the whole awkwardness stuff, so we didn't look like total morons.
That's awesome.
So to find that out that night, and then the funniest part was they always after WrestleMania they have a huge party. And I remember Glenn and I were chasing Shane McMahon around going, so Shane, we're still part-time. We just went over in WrestleMania and we're getting a title shot tomorrow. Shouldn't we get full-time contracts? And finally he looks at us, he goes, can you guys just go enjoy the night and leave me the alone?
we basically had no filter. We weren't afraid to say anything or anything else. So it was a great time.
Yeah, I mean, that was the greatest. I mean, obviously, besides Ground Zero, you know, when we won tag belts. But
right.
Yeah, that was an amazing night. And that's almost like we never looked at ourselves as if like we were these big superstars. We still don't. We're very humble about it, and we're just normal people like everyone else has a weird job that puts us on TV. Is how we look at it. So to be going over and having. I mean, we walked into the bar and it was like, everyone ever buy the Headbanger shots? We were getting shots from all over the place. And, you know, getting that attention, we were kind of like, holy shit, did we just make it? Or have we made it or not? Like, it was kind of, it was weird. And then that whole weekend was just a huge party. It was like that hotel was a huge party. You would just walk down, everyone's doors were open. You could just go room to room to room to room with fans and whoever and just take a shot or whatever you wanted to do in the room. And I mean, it was just...
Wow, what an experience. That's awesome. And yeah, you guys really seem like it just from the short time we've talked now. I mean, definitely regular everyday guys, which is awesome. Glenn, for you, a specific distinction, you actually are a one-time hardcore champion.
37 seconds. It counts, I guess.
Yeah, it counts. Yeah.
And it was at WrestleMania.
It was at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That belt was moving so quickly. Did anyone even tell you, or did you just choose to do it in that?
No, they had a whole, like, I guess you were going to do it here, you were going to win it there, and he was going to take it there kind of thing. It was just all over. It was that big battle royal free-for-all kind of balls counted anywhere, any kind of thing, and stuff like that. So I guess I was just at the right pointing moment. And then you're going to do it, and then you're going to drop it to this guy, and then this guy's going to do it. Yeah, it was just, I don't think they picked and choose, you know, who they wanted to have it.
Carefully,
it was just,
right.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. It was they wanted to have as many, I guess, turnovers of the belt until it got to the final end. I think like Hardcore Holly had it like 4 different times in that same match or 5 different. It was some crazy number that they wanted to see, you know, the event. The winner of the whole thing have it a couple times during that whole match. Gotcha. But yeah, Pete Gas really hit me in the head with that thing. Because I don't know how to swing this, so I'm just going to spray it, suck all the oxygen out of the air so you can't breathe, and then I'm going to hit you in the head with it.
House of Payne, I want to know, for you guys, what are some proud matches for you in your career so far? Some matches, you know, helped your career along the way.
One of our favorites is we got the opportunity to work Brian Costello and Cowboy Bob Orton.
Oh, wow.
And like that was something for us that, you know, these are guys that we saw on TV when we were younger. And to have them, you know, like working with us. They told us that in the 20 years of them doing that, because that show is an annual show. They said out of all the opponents they had, that we were their favorites because we knew how to work and we took it easy on them. And we let them get their stuff and we wasn't trying to just beat up on the old guys. You know, like we showed them enough respect. But it was just good to hear from guys who have been there and who are legit guys that, we would be good. And the one compliment they gave us was, you guys would have made it far in our era. That's something that we always love to hear.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I got to slam Bob Orton, so that was beautiful.
And he didn't want to go. His life to not take that body slam.
He didn't want to go.
Right.
He was fighting it, but I had to show him the power, and he went.
But no, that's another story that is funny. Like, we were putting that match together, and Cowboys, wants to do the suplex off the second rope. But he's looking at both of us like, who the hell am I going to slam out of these? Who's going off the rope? So I look at my partner. I'm like, you can do it. So Bob Orton looks at Roman and goes, can he get his ass up there and do this? And Roman's like, he wouldn't be here if he couldn't. So now the match comes. I take my bump outside the ring and I'm peeking up through the apron to see this suplex happen. And Bob Orton got it off and it looked great. And at the end, he came back and gave us our props about it and was like, you know what, you guys are really good.
Good.
Took care of him.
Yeah, absolutely. That is great to hear. Headbangers for you guys. To wind it down now towards the end, most recently where we've seen you was on SmackDown 2016. Could you talk about how that came about? Because I remember watching and you guys being there, and it was, I was shocked. And then you were there a few other times after that, I think, too.
Yeah, so
you were not more shocked than me.
What happened was I get a text message from Road Dogg, and it says, "Hey, are you guys available for?" It was on like a Thursday. Are you available to do SmackDown on Tuesday night? And I wrote back, "Yeah, who is this and why are you ribbing me?" And he immediately called. And he's like, "No, Chaz," he goes, "I'm serious." Because what happened is I would see him. So my son he's almost 17. He's seen me do hundreds and hundreds of indie shows to the point where Glenn and I had been in the ring and I look over and he's sound asleep on the table. Like, he just doesn't. But I've always wanted him to see me one time in that WWE ring. So whenever they were in town, I'd reach out to Road Dogg or Hunter or somebody and go, "Can I just one match? Like, don't pay me. I'll sign a waiver. Like, I just want to do one match." So Brian knew this. So he called me up and he's like, "No," he goes, "I'm serious." He goes, "We have this whole storyline, this whole angle. We want to bring you and Glenn in. It's going to help the storyline or whatever." So I'm like, "Yeah, of course we're available." So he goes, "All right." He goes, "We'll be in touch tomorrow." So then he called me on that. So it was a Thursday. So he called me Friday. He's like, "Yeah, sorry." He goes, "We can't do it because it's in like Massachusetts at one of the casinos they were taping. They said you had to have a full physical, blood work, everything done in order to work there. So we would have never got it done in time." And he goes, "I'm hoping we can hold the angle long enough to do it next week." He goes, "But I can't promise anything." So I'm like, "Brian, I appreciate you thinking of us. I'll see you down the road." I'm thinking this ain't happening, but I appreciate the thought. So all week we're waiting. Like, "Did you hear from him?" I'm like, "Not yet." "Did you hear from him?" I'm like, "Not yet." So finally, that following Friday, we get a phone call from Howard Finkel, who says, "Hey, Chaz, it's Howard Finkel." He goes, "You and Glenn are needed in Dallas, Texas on Tuesday for SmackDown." And we were like, "Oh." So that's how it happened. And it was I probably have two out of my top three moments. That's one of my top three. Obviously one being WrestleMania, the other winning the tag belts. And then that one, because again, my son there was an opportunity for him to see me in that ring, but not see me in the ring, but live on TV. He got to witness it. And my ex actually set up her phone behind him and filmed him watching me in the ring. So I got to see his expressions, which made it even better. So, that was just one of the greatest nights ever.
That's awesome.
So it's awesome. It's funny because I kind of had a similar story. My oldest two girls are, now they're, 27 and 25. So my oldest remembers Daddy being away and everything else, they used to come to the arenas, but they don't really remember because that was like, at the time they would be coloring with Owen in the lunchroom. They'd be playing hide and seek with China out in the auditorium or in the arena. So I mean, they just saw it as like something else. So during that time, when we came back, one of the times that we did was up in New Jersey, and they actually came to it live. So, it was more or less like a full circle for even me, for, my older two kids to experience, because my oldest daughter was actually with me when we won the tag belts in Louisville. So, she didn't really understand it. It was Daddy had a different job. Daddy had a weird job,
Right. He didn't understand why Daddy was wearing his big belt to bed at night.
yeah. I don't know why Daddy's showering with this leather belt on. It's just weird. So yeah. So it was nice. It was definitely, it was definitely a road that I thought that we would never see. But it's like he said, it's probably one of my top 3 too.
Just watching, I thought it was a cool moment for you guys. But hearing that, those are some of the greatest stories I've ever heard. Really, I love that you were able to show your family that. The
funny part is after the match, like some people on social media gave me shit because I did the dab. I did the dab. But the story behind that was I said to my son, what do you want me to do? So just for you, so you know it's for you. And I said, you want me to do the monkey face? And he said, no, because that's for Amy. I used to do that for my niece, the monkey face coming down the ring, this. That was for her. I used to do it for her all the time. So I said, what do you want me to do? We came up with all this stuff. And then he looked at me. He goes, I want you to dab. And he said, I'm not dabbing. I said, I hate the dab. I can't stand it. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever when Cam Newton was doing it. I said, I don't do that. And he goes, that's why I want you to do the dab, because you hate it. I got to do it. The camera was just awesome. I didn't even talk to the camera guys, because a lot of times you can talk to the camera guys and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Can you try and catch this? I didn't even say anything to him. I just rolled in. It was just perfect timing of getting it up there. And his reaction in the video when I do that is freaking priceless. It's
priceless. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Well, House of Payne, I want to know, what can we expect for the future for you guys? Any long or short-term plans? I know WrestleMania week's around the corner. So what can we expect for you guys?
We would definitely like to get out to Tampa for WrestleMania week. It'd be great to hit Florida scene. We just did Florida in December for a group called NAWA. They ran the Ocean Center, so we did that. So yeah, we're just looking to get out there more, looking to travel more. Hopefully, maybe somewhere down the line, we get to step in the ring with our guest here today.
You never say never.
Yeah, no, it would definitely be a honor, man. I watched you guys, and even to be here talking to you guys is a pleasure. I mean, I really mean that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I agree 100%. I definitely want to get in the ring with the Bangers. House of Payne versus Bangers. Make that happen.
Right. Weekend. Somebody's got to do it. I know, Coach Championship Wrestling. I know y'all work there. We got some people that we know from over there. Yeah. We know Vince Steele and Sebastian Cage and all of them. So maybe we can get something going.
Never say never. You never know what's going to happen.
Talk to our booker.
Never say never. Yeah. Well, and Headbanger, same question for you, for your future. What can we expect? Any goals before you guys are done, or is that's not even in your mind?
The goals are to get in the ring, have fun, and not break a hip.
That's a true story.
The goal for us is we like to go and have fun. We're all about having a good time when we get to a show. We like helping the younger guys out. We're doing a lot of local stuff. There's Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling up in Melbourne. It's like 2 hours from us. We've been doing a lot of stuff for them. That's where we're working the angle with the Ascension.
Right.
Just signed a deal with Fight TV. So starting the 11th, they'll be on Fight TV. Awesome. So you got to check that out. So that's going to be good. It's just a matter of, like this weekend we did a convention. We love the conventions because it's a big reunion for us. We get to see fans that we saw 25 years ago, and now they walk up to us and go, "Oh, here's my daughter. She's 25," and we're like, "Not mine, right?" Like, So, and then we get to see everybody. Like Glenn said, this past weekend, we got to see Shamrock and Dan Severn was there. The Powers of Pain were there, and the Haku was there. Barry Windham was there. Mike Rotundo. All these guys that helped us get to where we got. So for us, I think it's just a matter of just going and having a good time, making a little extra coin, and it's about having fun for us now. That's what it's all about.
For sure. And final question. Do you guys have any advice for the House of Payne as they continue their career?
Well, I got one piece of advice for him. You should never wear that bow tie ever again.
Oh, yeah. That is a whole show.
Just keep doing what you guys are doing. Obviously, it's working. You guys seem to be really successful. I love the graphics on the shirt. As long as you guys are happy together and everything else, it means so much knowing that you have somebody that has your back 24/7. It's funny because me and Chaz to this day live 10 minutes apart from each other. I moved all the way down to Florida. That's hilarious.
That's funny you said that because my tag partner moved to Connecticut and I moved to Connecticut. I'm like down the block from him.
Yeah, we're like 5 minutes.
It's so funny because I was living in Maryland and he was living down here for 10 years. And I come down here for a surprise birthday for him. And, I was down here for a vacation. He goes, dude, you should just move down here. We can get back in the ring. There's more stuff going on down here and everything else. Now, mind you, I had a pretty decent job up where I was. I had 2 small kids, 9 dogs that I just packed up in a car and just moved down here. I had no place to live. I had no job. I had no nothing. But I did it, and, I don't regret it one bit. It was the best decision I ever made. We're closer now than we ever been. It's been great. It's awesome. Knowing that I can drive 5 minutes in my car and be at his house, or, he needs something, he picks up the phone, hey, can you go let the dogs out? I'm running late from work or whatever. And I'm there. So it's nice.
A big piece of advice for the two of you is, and this is probably one, I don't want to say regret, but something I would have done differently, is, and Glenn and I have talked about this before, so it's okay to say it. You guys got to communicate with one another. It's like a therapy session now. Communicate with one another. If something's bothering you, or if you see something going on, say something to each other. I think if Glenn, after he blew his knee out, he wasn't that confident in coming back, and he blew up and got way out of shape. And at that point, that's when we had me doing single stuff. But I think looking back, if I would have got on him and go, dude, what are you doing? Why are you eating 3 double cheeseburgers and a 20-pack of chicken McNuggets all in one sitting? Like, what are you doing? Things may have been a little bit different, but for me, I didn't like confrontation. It just wasn't my personality at the time. And Glenn was always the leader of the team because he was the veteran of it. And I never looked at myself as an equal to him at that point. And he was always higher than me. And I always thought, who am I to tell him what to do? That's not my spot, but that is my spot. And him and I, we're straight up with each other now. So you guys have to do that also. If you see something that's bothering you, they say, see something, say something. You guys got to speak up and communicate everything. Something's bothering you, home life, whatever it is, you guys got to constantly be in that same loop with one another.
Thank you so much.
It's funny because, me and Chaz, and, we're each other's longest going relationship. It's true. I mean, I've known Chaz longer than I've known my wife. Chaz is the godfather to, my second daughter. That is so very true what you just said about the communication and everything else. So yeah, once you think you're afraid to say something, that's when you say it, because he's going to be there to pick you up. Nobody else will.
Thank you so much, guys. Again,
Appreciate
huge pleasure.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Definitely a pleasure. Yeah, that finishes us off. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This was definitely one of my favorites. I don't think I've laughed this much during one of these, so thank you. A lot of fun.
And Jonah, thank you for putting this together, man.
Yeah, of course. I enjoyed watching it. This is awesome. I hope I could see you guys down the road one day.
For sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
Go at it.
We'll make it happen.
As long as you don't wear that stupid bow tie. It's got heat with me.
You wear skirts, I wear the bow tie. That's how it works.
I love it. Don't stray from your gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. And again, mentioning our incredible sponsors, Wrestling Pins. Now, if you heard me mention them 2 times before and you're hearing this for a 3rd time, why haven't you already ordered some pins at this point? You are an hour deep in the episode. Go on your phone, order some Wrestling Pins, and type in RRR15OFF upon checkout to get yourself 15% off. Courtesy of Rewind Recap Relive, of course, your next Wrestling Pins order. Go to this link right here or in the description box below, and I'll see you soon.
Woo! Message Daddy. Boogie Woogie Man feel good. I tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss online. Rewind, recap, relive. Oh yeah!